Well, today I'm going to tell Nathan a little bit about his great-grandfather, Levi Franklin Hall. My dad used to always say his father, Levi Franklin Hall, was the first white child born in Garland, Utah. I suppose there were some Indians born before that, but he was the first white born in Garland, Utah. He grew up there on a farm, and when he got older, he went to work on some ranches around there. And then I think his next occupation was a dry farmer. He used to dry farm grain over in the Box Elder County area. My dad always said that he'd be a rich man today if Grandpa had stayed and farmed that ground a few more years. He let it go for taxes, and then the next 2 years they had a bumper crop and made out like bandits. So he could have been the son of a wealthy dry farmer, or the great-grandson of a wealthy dry farmer. Grandpa married a girl from Clarkston, Utah. Her name was Verla Grace Gover Godfrey. You might be surprised at the length of that name, and the reason she got that name is she was a twin and born early, and since they thought she was going to die, they named her after every family relative there was. So the twins' names were Verla, that was your great-grandmother, and Erla was her sister. I remember Erla at family reunions, but Grandma Hall died when I was young, and I don't remember her too much. Great-grandpa, the first memory I have of going to his place was he had a farm in Collinston. I think it was East Garland. East Garland's where his farm was. And we went there. We gathered the eggs, and I remember gathering some pullet eggs. They were just tiny, just about like that. That was quite fun to gather those pullet eggs. Then we went out in the barn, and he had a rope swing hanging off the top of the barn. It was one of those high barns with a derrick in it, and he had a rope swing hanging there. And my brothers got on the rope swing and took turns, but I was too small, so they never would give me a turn. So I spent quite a while watching them swing on the ropes, and then the turns were over and we had to go, and I never did get a turn. Grandpa was a hard worker. That's my grandpa, your great-grandfather. He was a hard worker. He worked for Box Elder County, and he did a lot with bridges, building bridges. My dad says he used to go to work with Grandpa all the time. I think Grandma's health was poor, and I also think he was kind of a handful, so Grandpa would take him to work. And there's a bridge. It's torn out now, but it was right down in Collinston. And every time we'd drive across that bridge, Grandpa would tell about when he was a little boy and Grandpa was working on that bridge, and he'd go with him to work every day. Later in life, he became the county road supervisor in Box Elder County, and he knew every road in Box Elder County, and Grandpa knows every road there too, and we used to frequently go for a drive and drive around Box Elder County and just visit different places. I remember when I was a boy, probably younger than you, we'd go visit Grandpa, and he lived in Bear River City. He had just an immaculate home. It was a red brick home right on Main Street. The lawns and bushes were always trimmed neatly. One thing about Great-Grandpa is he always marked his tools. His tools were always painted green. So if you had a shovel with a green handle, or a rake with a green handle, or a pair of shears with a green handle, you knew where that came from. That came from Great-Grandpa. He was known as Frank Hall all of his life. Later on in life, when my Aunt Lowena started doing genealogy research, she found his name was Levi Franklin Hall, and that was sure a surprise to him. He didn't know it was Levi Franklin Hall. He just thought he was Frank Hall. He was always a hard worker. Grandma was in poor health. She had a bad heart, and so he did a lot of the housework. He would always scrub the floors, do the shopping. I remember Grandma Hall, your grandmother, saying how upset it made her one time when Grandpa came to visit him, and he thought the floors weren't clean enough, and so he got down and scrubbed the floors and scrubbed the back step I remember even as a boy, a little bit younger than you, him coming to our house and thinking the yard wasn't raked very nice. We didn't keep our yard as nice as he kept his, and he got all of us boys out there pulling the rake through the lawn, raking the lawn. He was very meticulous, hard worker. He was fun to be around. I remember one story of him taking Uncle Bruce fishing. And so he took Uncle Bruce fishing. They were fishing over on Cutler Reservoir, and a fish came along and bit on the pole, pulled the pole into the water and took the pole away, so he lost the fishing pole. And Grandpa he bought a new fishing pole for Bruce, and when they returned home, Bruce had a new fishing pole to replace the one that had been taken by the fish. Grandpa married his wife in December. I remember Grandpa telling about the wedding. They came over from Garland, picked up his wife in Clarkston with a team and a sleigh. They said the snow was up to the horses' bellies. I think he got married December 16th, 1915. So that would have made him 19 and his bride was 20. And then they took that team and sleigh over to Garland to settle in. He was quite a man, well known throughout Box Elder County and liked by all. He always had work during the Depression, and he shared with others. Grandpa remembers going around with his dad and taking groceries around to some of the family members because he always had work and lots of them were out of work. So that's a few memories of you for Great Grandpa Hall, Levi Franklin Hall.